You're with Newsmakers on the panel, Alec, Neill, Jim Tully and Andrew Holden. A recent British study suggested that the internet has dragged the tone of public debate into the gutter and opened the floodgates to abuse. Blogs and message boards were singled out. And I suppose a certain Christchurch restaurant operator could come to mind here. More recently, Facebook has been a bouncing board for abuse and physical threats against the Burnside High School principal. Enter the police, who are now laying criminal charges against those who dished out the threats of physical harm. With the police right to act? Andrew.
Well, I suppose if there's a criminal act committed, they're obliged to take part, aren't they? It certainly highlights that you've got this extraordinary outlet where people will want to express their opinions and their views and their anger, if you like, and this was a classic case of it. What so many of those people forget is that everybody's watching, including us, the media, and we're going to leap onto it in a second if we see there's a story. So, I mean, I don't think behaviour's changed. I think these sort of things have been occurring for generations, for goodness sake, in terms of whether you like your teacher or your new principal or not. Yeah. The difference is you're putting it into a public place, and there's some pretty harsh lessons. I think the boy involved and a lot of the kids at that school don't necessarily need a criminal charge to be brought against them to have learnt a very painful lesson.
Yeah, I have seen some interesting comments on Facebook since the police announced they would be laying charges from people saying, oh, this is way too top-heavy, and that the internet should be a free, unfettered forum for free speech, regardless of the law. Is that la-la land, Jim?
I think it's la-la land, yeah. I mean, I think one of the issues, of course, is that the mainstream media have traditionally had the monopoly over the voice. Now, it's been democratised, and that's good. But on the other hand, the media have always understood legal restraints and protocols in and around what's appropriate and inappropriate. In other words, responsible free speech. So unfettered free speech that is malicious, damaging, harmful is another issue altogether. And I think part of the problem with the internet is that a lot of people who use it are oblivious or deliberately flaunt those legal and other protocols that the mainstream have always abided by. In fact, I think some people take delight in the fact that they can subvert the mainstream and ignore those protocols. So I think a message has to be sent out. I'm glad that action has been taken against the blog site Whale Oil. Yes. And I think in this particular case, as Andrew says, if there's a criminal act, then the police have to do something, because people have to realise that free speech is not unfettered. There is a responsibility here. Yeah. Just a quick comment, Alec?
I'm taking off my ECAN hat and putting on my Lane Neve lawyer's hat. I'm concerned about those types of sites, and particularly things like e-democracy, where defamation exists. It is a publication, and whilst newspapers are very careful about what they publish, these people don't, and one day someone will in fact be sued in defamation for a description that he's given on a blog site that he didn't realise had the consequences that it did. So I have serious concern. For the headmaster himself, huge concern and sadness for him. The reports that come from the north are good.
All right. Now, on the rugby front, as you probably have noticed, it's been a rather auspicious start for Canterbury Rugby. They have tripled the number of season ticket holders, and over 20,000 fans flocked to AMI last Saturday for the opener. The only thing missing is you. Yes, well, has the summer charm offensive paid off swimmingly, Mr. Holden?
Well, it clearly has, and I'm sure they're very relieved that they beat the Phoenix in terms of straight-up crowd, 23,000 from what I understand to 19. It's remarkable what a bit of humility does, isn't it? And breaking down that barrier where you had the sense that the rugby players were untouchable and you weren't allowed to, you know, approach them or get to know them, that they're actually part of the team. And they clearly needed to change, and they've started to make it work. Whether that will maintain, whether the weather gets pretty filthy, I think will be another matter. But it's a great result for them.
Jim, I thought I saw you running onto the field at full time, like a gleeful little child again.
I had my clothes on. I mean, I think two things here. One is the fact that good players were out there. Yeah. And I think, when the All Blacks were put in cotton wool, that was damaging, and why would you go? But the single one thing that impressed me was all those people going on the field and having that ability to do what we used to do in the 50s and 60s as schoolboys, run onto Lancaster Park and surround the players and no one carting you off, and it was, I think, a great thing.
I've got about 20 seconds, Alec.
Yeah. Blackadder represents what we call rural rugby rump,
Yes.
and his campaign was the cause for its success. People still like to see people like him that probably have 2 pies before a game rather than having a psychologist giving them a rub.
I've got about 30 seconds in total for any free shots. Anyone who deserves a plug or a poke from the week that has been. Who wets your whistle? Jim?
Oh, I'd poke Tiger Woods for being such a prima donna and clown over this whole business.
Are you going to be up at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning to watch the press conference?
Absolutely not. No, no. I'll watch it on YouTube, the highlights.
Plugs or pokes?
Yeah, I'm going to give a poke to New Zealand Bowls and Gary Lawson. God almighty, you almost get more for murder than $5,000 for what Gary Lawson did. Pathetic.
All right. Andrew?
And mine would simply be the decision by AMI Stadium and Rugby to let people back onto the turf. It was such an obvious thing to do, and good on them for breaking down whatever barrier they had to allow that to happen.
Fantastic. All right. To the pick of the week. And this image has been an internet sensation in the last few weeks. Apparently, Her Majesty has had a gutsful of the royal household's security breaches. And as you can see, she has taken matters into her own hands. Now, I do have to admit, this image, I think, has been doctored. It is another example of the feckless folly you'll find on the internet, you know, this new media. But it's not a bad image, is it? It's not a bad look for HM. There you go. Last week's NewsMakers poll question, should GST be increased to fund the cutting of personal income tax? And this was an absolute polariser, 47% yes, 53% no. The prize winner, Kay Crofts. This week's question, should the Burnside High pupils who posted physical threats on Facebook be facing criminal charges? Yes or no? We'll throw it over to you. Email newsmakers@ctv.co.nz. You can vote on the web, mikeyardley.com, or use Postman Pat, PO Box 1100 Christchurch. Do so and you'll be in to win the 50 Summer Hits compilation CD, weather not included, and some Cafe Aurora coffee. Good luck. By the way, on Tuesday, a NewsMakers Extra, we'll be setting the scene on the National Railway Museum. Also, Mark Hadlow will be sharing with us his vision for the Odeon. And on the panel next Friday, Dave Henderson, who has a very important decision to make about the para rubber site. He'll be on the panel next Friday. Thank you very much to Jim Tully, Andrew Holden, and the endangered Chairman Neill. Have a very good weekend. Good night.